Imagine for a moment that before you were born, your soul carefully chose the family in which you would grow up. It seems strange, doesn't it? Why would someone deliberately choose to be born into an environment of pain, into a home marked by conflict, criticism, or abandonment? Could it be spiritual masochism, or is there something deeper at play? The truth is that your arrival in a toxic family was not a cruel twist of fate. There is a grander, more transformative reason behind this. Recent studies in epigenetics suggest that emotional trauma can be transmitted from generation to generation, becoming encoded in our DNA. In other words, your ancestors' unresolved pain may have traveled decades to reach you. But here's the most intriguing part. If these toxic patterns have been passed on, they can also be stopped. And believe it or not, you are the person destined to do this. But why you? Why were you chosen to break such old and deep-rooted cycles? Because of all souls, yours was seen as strong enough to bear the weight and brave enough to transform pain into power. If you have ever wondered why you were born into a family where there seems to be more criticism than support, more silence than acceptance, know that this experience is not a punishment. In fact, it is training. Toxic families are like fire. Yes, they burn, they leave deep marks. But they also forge the soul, just as metal becomes more resistant when passing through flames. Modern psychology confirms that the family environment plays a determining role in the formation of identity. Children who grow up in dysfunctional environments often develop keen observation skills and a capacity for empathy well above average. These characteristics, although born of pain, are essential tools for those destined to break generational patterns. Think about some of the most inspiring people you know or have heard about. Many of them came from turbulent family histories. Oprah Winfrey, for example, survived a childhood marked by abuse and extreme poverty, but turned her scars into a platform to heal millions of people around the world. Nelson Mandela endured decades of imprisonment, but emerged as a global symbol of peace and reconciliation. What do these stories have in common? They show that pain does not define your destiny, but it can be the fuel to create an extraordinary future. Share this knowledge with the world. How many people do you know are still stuck in this cycle and have no idea? Together we can spread this message and help more people become free. Subscribe to the channel and send this video to anyone who needs to hear this truth. And here's the truth that few speak. You're not just here to survive family chaos. You are here to transcend, to heal yourself, and in doing so, to heal those who came before you and the generations yet to come. When you choose to rise through the pain, something incredible happens. You become the breaking point in a cycle that could last centuries. But to break this cycle, you first need to understand an essential truth. Your family's toxic behavior is not a reflection of your worth. Cutting words, indifference, or lack of support say more about their pain and limitations than about you. Once you realize this, you begin to free yourself. Because real freedom comes not when others change, but when you change your perception, when you stop seeking external validation and start recognizing yourself as enough. And I know it's not easy. Overcoming familiar patterns is one of the most challenging tasks a person can face. It often means confronting pain you've tried to bury for years. It means giving up the hope that your family will one day become what you always wanted. But it also means freeing yourself to live an authentic life, one in which you define who you are rather than being defined by the wounds of your past. On this path, you will learn the greatest lesson of all. Self-love is not selfishness. It's survival. It is through self-reception and self-compassion that you rebuild what was fragmented. And in doing so, you not only heal yourself, but you become a mirror for your family, showing that change is possible. The question is, are you ready to accept this role? Are you ready to become the person who turns pain into purpose, darkness into light? Because in the end, the true legacy you can leave is not the repetition of what hurt you, but the courage to create a new path for those who come after you. And it all starts with a decision to stand up and embrace your power as the chosen one. Because you are not here by chance. You are here to change everything. Why do some people seem to be born into harmonious environments while others face profound challenges in their families? Was this a simple coincidence, or was there a deeper meaning behind these experiences? Throughout history, several spiritual traditions have affirmed that nothing happens by chance. Every challenge we encounter is part of a larger plan, designed not to punish us, but to shape us. The idea that souls choose the circumstances in which they are born is not new. Ancient philosophies such as Hinduism and Buddhism advocate the concept of karma, which suggests that our current experiences are the result of past actions. In ancient Greece, Plato described in his work, The Republic, around 380 BC, the belief that souls choose their lives before reincarnating based on lessons they still need to learn. More recently, in 1978, psychiatrist Dr. Brian Weiss began studies on past life regression. In his book, Many Lives, Many Masters, 1988, he documents cases in which patients report, under hypnosis, having chosen challenging experiences to accelerate their spiritual growth. These reports reinforce the idea that the environment in which we are born is not an accident, but a carefully chosen scenario for our evolution. But why would a soul choose to be born into a toxic family? The answer may lie in the need to break negative patterns that have been perpetuated for generations. Recent research in epigenetics, such as that conducted by Rachel Yehuda in 2015, has demonstrated that trauma can be transmitted genetically. Children of Holocaust survivors, for example, have changes in genes linked to stress. This means that the pain experienced by our ancestors can be inherited not just as behavior, but in our very DNA. Given this context, the role of someone born into a dysfunctional family can be seen as that of an agent of transformation. Those who face and break these cycles are not only freeing themselves, but also healing wounds that have spanned generations. This perspective transforms pain into purpose. It is not about suffering in vain, but about using difficult experiences as tools for growth and change. The concept that each soul has a path to follow is also present in Christian traditions. In the book of Jeremiah 1:5 it is said, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, and before you came out of the womb I sanctified you." This verse is interpreted by many as a sign that human existence has a predetermined divine purpose, suggesting that our arrival in this world is part of a greater plan. Still, it's understandable to ask, why do some face more pain than others? The answer lies in the idea that stronger souls choose greater challenges. They take responsibility for clearing harmful patterns as they have the spiritual capacity to endure and transform these experiences. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and author of the classic In Search of Meaning, 1946, stated that the meaning of life is found in the ability to give meaning to suffering. For him, difficulties should not be seen just as burdens, but as opportunities to develop values such as courage, empathy, and purpose. Those who face hostile family environments have the unique chance to transform pain into wisdom, and in doing so, positively impact future generations. This view does not imply romanticizing pain or ignoring its consequences. On the contrary, it recognizes the depth of suffering, but also highlights the possibility of transcendence. Research from Harvard University, published in 2020, shows that people who go through traumatic experiences and seek to reframe these pains develop greater resilience and tend to become more empathetic. Those born into toxic families, therefore, are not condemned to repeat history. Each time a cycle of abuse, silencing, or neglect is broken, a new narrative is created. This is not just a personal transformation. It is a cure that crosses generations, changing the destiny of an entire lineage. Spiritual choice, then, can be seen as a compromise, a commitment not to let the pain of the past determine the future. To accept the responsibility to heal yourself, knowing that this healing impacts not only your own life, but also the lives of those who came before and those who will come after. The question that remains is, what if you are the link destined to change your family's history? What if the suffering you have faced is actually the invitation to become the person who will bring light where there was once darkness? This is the true essence of spiritual choice, the courage to transform pain into a legacy of healing and freedom. Your journey is just beginning. It's time to regain your strength and build a new path. Subscribe to the channel and be part of this community that is awakening to the truth. Pain, however devastating it may seem, carries within it the potential for transformation. In particular, family wounds often function as catalysts for a profound process of healing and inner growth. Although at first glance, these experiences seem to only cause suffering, they also have the power to reveal hidden strengths and open doors to a new level of consciousness and self-understanding. In the field of psychology, there's a concept known as post-traumatic growth, which describes how individuals who face difficult situations can emerge from these experiences stronger, more aware, and with a new perspective on life. Studies carried out at the University of North Carolina in 1996, led by psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun, showed that traumatic events, including those experienced in toxic family environments, can trigger significant psychological development. This growth occurs in 5 main areas: appreciation of life, new possibilities, personal empowerment, improvements in relationships, and a profound shift in spiritual outlook. This transformation process, however, does not happen automatically. It requires a willingness to face wounds head-on, understand them, and above all, seek a higher meaning for the suffering experienced. Many philosophers and spiritual leaders throughout history have highlighted the transformative power of pain. Psychiatrist and neurologist Viktor Frankl, in his book In Search of Meaning, 1946, stated that suffering only stops being destructive when we can give it a purpose. In his words, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. In the context of dysfunctional families, pain often arises from repetitive patterns such as constant criticism, emotional manipulation, neglect, or a lack of genuine love. These behaviors often have deep roots in past traumas and are perpetuated across generations. However, when someone within this structure consciously decides to interrupt these cycles, a healing process begins that goes beyond the individual. It reverberates throughout the family lineage. But how does this transformation occur in practice? The first step is to develop awareness. Without recognizing harmful patterns, it is impossible to break them. This process of awareness involves observing family dynamics without judgment, understanding how these experiences shaped the perception of oneself and the world. For example, a person who grew up in a home where affection was conditional may unconsciously believe that they need to try excessively to deserve love and validation. Identifying this belief is essential to begin to give new meaning to it. The second step is to allow yourself to feel and process the pain. Often the emotions associated with toxic family experiences are repressed as a defense mechanism. However, studies in neuroscience, such as those conducted by Bessel van der Kolk in his book The Body Guards the Marks, 2014, reveal that unprocessed emotions are stored in the body, generating physical and emotional symptoms over time. Releasing this emotional charge through therapeutic practices such as somatic therapy or reflective writing is an essential step towards healing. Another fundamental aspect of this process is forgiveness, but not the type of forgiveness that ignores or minimizes the pain experienced. It is a liberating forgiveness, which allows you to stop carrying the weight of resentment. According to research published in 2016 by the American Psychological Association, people who practice forgiveness have reduced levels of stress, anxiety, and depression. However, forgiving does not mean accepting harmful behavior or staying in toxic situations. Instead, it means releasing the emotional burden that these experiences have imposed. Transformation also involves rebuilding identity. Many who grew up in dysfunctional family environments internalize negative messages about who they are. Constant criticism, devaluation, or lack of emotional support can lead to the belief that they are not worthy of love or success. Overcoming these narratives requires an active commitment to self-worth. Practices such as positive affirmations, meditation, and cognitive behavioral therapy help to reprogram these limiting beliefs and reinforce a new view of yourself. An inspiring example of this process is that of activist and writer Maya Angelou. After a childhood marked by trauma and abuse, she turned her pain into a powerful voice for social justice. His autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, 1969, is a testament to how personal healing can become a beacon of hope for others. Angelou not only overcame her wounds, but used her experience as a tool to promote collective healing. Beyond the personal level, healing these family wounds has a generational impact. When someone chooses to break cycles of pain, a new model of relationships and self-care is created for future generations. In a 2018 study, researchers at Yale University concluded that healthy behaviors and positive emotional patterns adopted by a family member significantly influence family dynamics over time. By choosing to heal yourself, you not only transform your own life, but you plant the seeds for those who come after you to inherit a legacy of love and awareness. Ultimately, the journey of healing and transformation is an ongoing process. There is no fixed point of arrival, as each step towards self-knowledge reveals new layers to be worked on. However, each conscious choice to heal is a revolutionary act that breaks with the past and creates a freer and more authentic future. If you were born into a family marked by pain and dysfunction, know that this experience does not define who you are. You have the power to turn your wounds into wisdom, your pain into compassion, and your story into inspiration. True transformation happens when you decide to not just survive, but to thrive. And in doing so, you become a light to those around you. This is the power of healing. It not only frees you, but also opens the way to freedom for others. The awakening continues. If this video opened your eyes to truths you had never seen before, imagine what else you can discover. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content that can transform your life. In many families, there are patterns that silently repeat themselves for generations. These cycles can manifest themselves in different ways: emotional abuse, neglect, lack of communication, or self-destructive behaviors. Sometimes the cycle is so subtle that it goes unnoticed, but its effects leave deep marks on those who experience them. However, within each family, someone appears who seems to see beyond what has been normalized. This person is what we can call the chosen one to break the cycle. Being the chosen one means carrying the responsibility of interrupting harmful patterns and rewriting family history. It's not an easy task because it requires facing painful truths, challenging limiting beliefs, and often moving in a direction opposite to what was taught. Breaking generational cycles does not happen by chance. It is an intentional process that demands courage, self-knowledge, and above all, the willingness not to perpetuate pain. One of the first steps to breaking a generational cycle is to identify the toxic patterns that are repeated. Many people grow up in dysfunctional environments without realizing that they are stuck in inherited behaviors. For example, a child who grows up in a home where emotions are repressed may, in adulthood, have difficulty expressing their feelings or connecting emotionally with others. Likewise, someone who has witnessed abusive relationships may unwittingly repeat these dynamics in their own life. Understanding these patterns requires an honest look at family dynamics. Ask yourself, what behaviors do I see repeating themselves in my family? Or what messages did I receive about love, self-worth, and confidence? These are essential reflections to begin the process of rupture. It's not enough to want to change. You need to understand where these behaviors come from and how they affect your choices and relationships. A fundamental aspect in interrupting these cycles is the awareness that you are not responsible for the choices of your ancestors, but you have the power to decide what the future will be like. Often, those who try to break a cycle carry a feeling of guilt, as if they were betraying their family by seeking a different path. However, true loyalty is not in repeating destructive patterns, but in creating a healthier environment for generations to come. Studies in the area of transgenerational psychology, such as those conducted by Dr. Anne-Anselin Schutzenberger in her book The Ancestor Syndrome, 1998, indicate that unresolved traumas can be transmitted from generation to generation. This phenomenon explains why emotional, financial problems, and even illnesses recur in certain families. However, it also shows that by becoming aware of these patterns, it is possible to interrupt their transmission and create new possibilities. A clear example of breaking the cycle can be seen in families where substance abuse is recurrent. Often, the first member who seeks help to treat their addiction is, in fact, interrupting a pattern that has been going on for decades. In doing so, this person not only transforms their own life, but also provides a new role model for children, nephews, and other family members who can look up to them on their recovery journey. Another essential factor in breaking generational cycles is the establishment of healthy limits. In dysfunctional families, boundaries are often blurred or non-existent. There may be invasion of privacy, emotional manipulation, or the expectation that everyone must sacrifice their own needs to maintain harmony. To break this pattern, it's vital to learn to say no when necessary. Protect your emotional and physical space and make it clear that certain behaviors will no longer be tolerated. Psychologist Brené Brown, in her research on vulnerability and belonging, states that clarity is kindness. Setting clear boundaries is not an act of selfishness. It is a demonstration of self-respect and a crucial step in stopping harmful dynamics from recurring. Those who choose to set limits are actually creating a safer and more respectful environment for everyone around them. In addition to recognizing patterns and establishing limits, another powerful aspect in breaking generational cycles is emotional self-care. In many cases, those who try to break these patterns face resistance, criticism, and even rejection from their own family. Therefore, taking care of mental and emotional health becomes a priority. Therapy, support groups, and practices like meditation are valuable tools for strengthening the mind and spirit during this challenging process. It is important to remember that breaking cycles does not mean cutting ties or abandoning your family, unless it is necessary for your emotional security. In many cases, it means changing the way you relate, communicating clearly, practicing compassion, but remaining firm in your commitment not to perpetuate what hurt you. This balance between love and self-commitment is what makes transformation possible. A real example of this process can be seen in Oprah Winfrey, who faced a childhood marked by abuse and neglect, but chose to rewrite her story. Instead of repeating the pattern she lived, she built a successful trajectory and became a voice of inspiration for millions of people around the world. Her story is a powerful reminder that regardless of where we come from, we have the power to decide where we go. Ultimately, being the chosen one to break a generational cycle is both a challenge and a privilege. Although the journey is difficult, each step taken toward healing creates a legacy of freedom for generations to come. You're not just changing your own life, you're paving a path for those who come after you to live more lovingly, authentically, and fully. And the question is, are you willing to be the turning point? Because in the end, someone will always be the first to say, "This ends with me." Maybe that someone is you. Don't return to the darkness. Fear tried to extinguish you, but now you know that your light is unbreakable. To continue strengthening yourself and never fall into traps like this again, click the subscribe button and activate the bell. Your liberation has begun. Taking responsibility for your own healing is an act of courage that transforms lives. Although the painful experiences of the past may not be your fault, the path to freedom from them depends solely on you. This truth may be uncomfortable, but it's also the first step to regaining control over your story. Many people go through life waiting for others to change or for external circumstances to adjust so that they can finally feel peace. However, this wait is a trap. Emotional freedom is not in controlling what happens around us, but in choosing how we respond to those experiences. When you take responsibility for your healing, you stop being a prisoner of what happened and become the author of your future. A clear example of this is the process of breaking away from the victim mentality. When someone remains trapped in the role of victim, they attribute to others the power to determine their feelings, choices, and results. Although validating the pain experienced is important, staying in that place prevents growth. True personal power comes the moment you accept that although you cannot change the past, you have full responsibility for how you choose to move forward. Positive psychology research, such as that conducted by Dr. Martin Seligman in the 1990s, demonstrates that individuals who adopt a mindset of personal responsibility experience higher levels of well-being and resilience. They understand that the power to change their lives lies in their daily decisions, not in the actions of those who hurt them. This understanding transforms pain into an opportunity for growth. Taking responsibility for healing does not mean denying the wounds or ignoring the difficulties faced. On the contrary, it involves recognizing emotions, processing them, and from that point on, choosing new ways of living. Many who grew up in toxic environments carry limiting beliefs, such as the feeling of being unlovable, or the idea that they are destined to repeat the same patterns. Identifying and challenging these beliefs is essential to breaking the cycle and building a new narrative. The healing process also requires you to free yourself from the need for external approval. We often seek validation from people who don't have the ability to offer us what we need. Expecting those who caused the pain to repair the damage can be a frustrating illusion. True liberation happens when you decide you no longer need permission to heal or excuses to move forward. This is the moment when you take back power over your life. Another crucial aspect is emotional self-responsibility. This means recognizing that your reactions and emotions are yours, regardless of how others act. For example, if someone hurts you, the initial pain may be inevitable, but harboring resentment or allowing that pain to define your future decisions is a choice. Taking emotional responsibility allows you to free yourself from toxic attachments and make decisions that align with your well-being. Personal responsibility also involves concrete actions toward healing. This may include seeking therapy, practicing self-care consistently, and developing habits that strengthen your emotional health. According to a study by the American Psychological Association in 2017, people who adopt proactive coping strategies, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, report greater life satisfaction and a lower incidence of emotional relapses. An inspiring example of personal responsibility is that of author and motivational speaker Nick Vujicic. Born without arms and legs, he could have given in to despair, but he chose to focus on what he could control, his mentality and his attitudes. By taking full responsibility for his outlook on life, Nick not only transformed his own reality, but inspired millions of people around the world to overcome limitations and take charge of their lives. Furthermore, taking responsibility for your own healing is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time decision, but a daily commitment to your own growth. There are days when the weight of the past can feel overwhelming, but every small choice of self-care and self-compassion strengthens your inner freedom. This journey requires patience and persistence, but the results are transformative. An often overlooked aspect is the importance of establishing healthy boundaries. As you take responsibility for your healing, you also need to decide who and what you will allow into your life. Boundaries are not about distancing yourself from people out of spite, but about protecting your emotional peace. Setting clear limits and respecting them is an act of self-love and a demonstration that you value your mental health. Another fundamental point is to stop waiting for excuses that may never come. For many, healing stagnates because they wait for validation from those who have hurt them. However, some people will never recognize the damage they have caused. Waiting for this recognition only prolongs the suffering. When you decide to free yourself from this expectation, you take back your power and make space to live fully and authentically. Taking responsibility for your own healing also involves accepting the imperfections of the process. There is no linear or perfect path to personal transformation. There will be moments of advancement and others of setback, but each step in the right direction strengthens your ability to live with more autonomy and inner peace. Excessive self-harm only perpetuates pain, while self-compassion creates an environment conducive to true change. Ultimately, personal responsibility is not a burden, it is an opportunity to redefine your story. When you decide that your healing is your priority, you stop being a reflection of the past and become the architect of your future. The pain you experience does not define who you are, but what you choose to do with it shapes who you will become. The question that remains is, are you willing to stop waiting for others to repair your wounds and start building the life you deserve? Because in the end, no one can do this work for you. The responsibility is yours, and so is the power to free yourself. The answer you were looking for is here. If this video made sense to you, don't stop here. There is so much more to learn and grow. Click sign up now and discover the next step towards your transformation. Getting here was not by chance. If you feel like you were born into a toxic environment, that you carry emotional burdens that are not entirely yours, there is a bigger reason for that. You are not destined to repeat the history you inherited. You have the power to change it. And while this healing journey is not easy, each step you take toward transformation creates a new path for you and future generations. Taking on the role of someone who breaks cycles requires courage. It means questioning family norms that many accept without reflection, challenging beliefs that have been passed down as absolute truths, and above all, choosing a new path, even when that means walking alone. This process can be painful because those who decide to change often become the target of judgment or resistance. However, in the long run, the freedom to live an authentic life makes up for any obstacles. The truth is, no one can do this work for you. As much as you want your family to acknowledge the harm done, that acknowledgement may never happen. Waiting for excuses that may never come only prolongs the suffering. Healing begins the moment you accept that you don't need permission to free yourself. You have the right and responsibility to prioritize yourself, respect yourself, and build a life that reflects who you really are. In many cases, the decision to break cycles requires moving away from harmful family dynamics. This distancing is not an act of selfishness, but of self-preservation. Being in toxic environments where your boundaries are constantly violated impedes the healing process. Establishing clear limits, or even creating distance when necessary, is a sign of self-love and an essential step towards protecting your peace of mind. Furthermore, those who break generational patterns not only transform their own lives, but also become a silent example for other family members. Often, by choosing a different path, you awaken in others the possibility of change. Not everyone may understand or accept your decisions immediately, but by standing firm, you plant a seed of transformation that can blossom over time. An important part of this process is accepting that healing does not happen all at once. There is no endpoint where all pain disappears and challenges cease to exist. Instead, each step you overcome strengthens your ability to deal with new obstacles in a more conscious and balanced way. Each choice to heal yourself, not repeat patterns, and value yourself is an act of courage that reverberates throughout your lineage. A key point is to let go of the idea that you need to fix your family. As much as you love these people, the responsibility for their transformation is not yours. Your role is to take charge of your own journey, and in doing so, you offer a new perspective on life. Instead of trying to save those who are not ready to change, focus on saving yourself and building a reality where you feel safe, respected, and free to be who you are. The process of breaking cycles also involves giving new meaning to your identity. Often, those who grow up in dysfunctional environments are conditioned to see themselves through the eyes of those who hurt them. Phrases like, "You'll never be good enough," or "That's just drama," can leave deep marks on self-esteem. Challenging these narratives and rebuilding your identity based on your truths, rather than the limitations imposed by others, is an essential step towards liberation. A powerful tool on this path is self-compassion. Instead of punishing yourself for past mistakes or blaming yourself for not noticing certain dynamics sooner, practice kindness to yourself. You are dealing with deep wounds that have taken years to form, and healing requires patience. Every small victory deserves to be recognized, and every effort you make to free yourself is proof of your strength. It is also essential to remember that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Seeking professional support, such as therapy or support groups, can significantly speed up the healing process. Having a safe space to express your emotions, understand hidden patterns, and develop healthy strategies is an investment in your emotional health and your future. Along this journey, you will realize that true freedom does not come from changing others, but from changing yourself. When you take full responsibility for your healing, you stop automatically reacting to emotional triggers and start consciously choosing how you want to live. This emotional freedom is the greatest gift you can give yourself, and also the greatest legacy you can leave for future generations. So the ultimate question is, are you willing to carry the weight of the past, or become the person who finally puts it to rest? Because ultimately, someone needs to be the first to say, "This ends with me." Maybe that someone is you. If this video made sense to you, don't stop here. Click sign up now and discover the next step towards your transformation.